You're probably wondering what the meaning of this is and why I'm not talking about an indie game right now. Well, as you may be able to guess, this was intended to be an April Fool's joke, and obviously it's not April 1st anymore. If I did decide to release it then, it would have been rushed and, well, kinda crappy, so I instead wanted to release it now when it's not crappy. And hey, when else am I gonna get a chance to talk about cool mainstream games that I really enjoy? Next time it's going to be a regular indie game, but for now, enjoy this clever little diversion.
Fight!
As you've seen from my humble little series, Nintendo's 2004 dual-screen wonder houses a lot of great gems from the humble handheld, sometimes perfecting a tried-and-true formula, and other times giving a brand new and interesting way to play. But frankly, even I'm surprised that I decided to wait until the 1st of April to finally talk about a really unique and engaging adventure game, a little gem called Ghost Trick Phantom Detective by Capcom. Considering the huge popularity that both Capcom and Ghost Trick director Shu Takumi have, it's certainly no surprise that I'm talking about another great adventure game since they reinvented the genre with the mega popular Ace Attorney series of games. Its interesting gameplay with the quirky and fun story make it a big cult classic on the humble handheld. What is surprising about this lone title, in spite of getting genuinely positive reviews across the board, is that it went mostly overlooked. It made GameSpot's Best Game No One Played of 2011, and according to VG Charts, it sold approximately 310,000 copies worldwide. Some of the games next to it on the page, like the Golden Compass or even the cult classic Hotel Dusk Room 215, each outdid the poor game by almost double. It probably has to do with the 3DS being released just 2 months after Ghost Trick was released in North America and Europe, so I'm guessing people were saving their cash for the then hefty price for the next handheld. Turns out they missed something pretty special from Takumi. Well, Takumi and his team over at Capcom. It wasn't just him making everything. Man, one person making a game all by themselves and releasing it on their own? Now that's just crazy talk! Takumi came up with the idea for the game while making Phoenix Wright and wanting to make a new kind of mystery game. At first they started the idea of doing a spy and calling it Ghost Spy, but as they developed the story it didn't really make much sense with the memory loss. And in a bit of irony, they decided to go with the name Ghost Trick because the Japanese word for to possess is pronounced very similarly to the English word for trick. And with the context of what you do with a little bit of wordplay fit the game like a glove. In the game, you play as Cecil, a new member of the dearly departed with a slight case of amnesia. As a ghost, he wakes up to find his corpse laying in the trash without a clear sign of how it ended up in this fine mess. Realizing that modern science may never find a quick cure for new video game characters with sudden amnesia, Cecil can't rest in peace until he finds out who he is and what happened to his body. Another ghost, in the form of a desk lamp spirit, 'cause why not, tells our hero that he has until the break of dawn before he's sent into the afterlife. So it's up to you to find out who you are and what killed you while uncovering the greater mystery behind the events of the evening. Here's how the gameplay works. As Cecil, or the blue ghost of Cecil, you move around in a 2D space with your stylus on certain objects. You can also control it with the D-pad and buttons, but honestly the stylus and touchscreen are much more smooth. While some of the objects are pretty much there to give you a route to move around the space, other objects are there to be possessed in order for you to perform a ghost trick. There are a different range of ghost tricks you can do, like being able to move a wheel, turn on a flashlight, open a fan, move a crane, a variety of different things. You'll use these tricks to get from point A to point B, finding information, helping people that you encounter, and being able to trace different phone lines so you can travel to different locations. But the main guts of the game, and the main puzzle aspect of it, is being able to change someone's fate. Specifically, when someone dies, you have the ability to go back in time 4 minutes before their demise. Within this short time, you'll have to figure out how to manipulate the objects to either prevent someone from killing another, or to stop some kind of disaster from occurring on the person that you're saving. The game lets you watch the 4 minutes all play out before, and you'll have to study the points of the 4 minutes very carefully to experiment with your means and options in order to cheat death. The difficulty curve is just right in the game. The puzzles start off pretty easy where you'll figure them out like it was second nature, but it can definitely get a bit tricky later on, especially at the point where you learn a new ability. But the puzzles never got to the point where I had to consult a walkthrough in order to figure out the logic of it. And like any great adventure game, you're feeling pretty proud of yourself after saving your latest victim in increasingly clever ways. Everything's very carefully constructed and designed. Because it's in a closed space, it never feels overwhelming or frustrating to figure out what the developers had in mind for the solution. The different characters do give you hints and point you out in the right direction, but thankfully they don't flat out give you the answer to the puzzle. And with the clock ticking to when they do meet their demise, there is a bit of tension to be able to figure out the puzzle before they're done. And if time does run out, no worries. You can either go back all the way to the beginning and resort your strategy, or when you solve the puzzle halfway through, you can go to what the game calls a fate change, which serves as a bit of a checkpoint to the puzzle. It's a game where it's designed so you can just sit down and resort your strategy and figure out what you're supposed to do, as opposed to, oh great, I have to do all of this crap over again just to get to the part that I couldn't figure out. Another Capcom adventure game, Zack and Wiki for the Wii, couldn't really get away from that trap as he had to do a lot of repetitive things over again to figure it out. Ghost Trick's design is much more well balanced, where it lets you figure out what you're supposed to do, but it still has that tension that you have to figure it out quick. It's just the right balance of all the different elements put together that makes Ghost Trick Phantom Detective a really compelling adventure game. And what would an adventure game be without a great story to back it up? As you may guess, there's a lot more going on than just Sizzle's corpse, and the scenes add new information for each of the characters with a good amount of twists in the story. Every scene in every chapter isn't wasted, and we're given something new to the big mystery in the game. The story is genuinely intriguing, and each time the game threw a new piece of the narrative puzzle, I was dying and anxious to see how it fit. I'm not really the kind of person that tries to guess how a game or movie is going to end, but I couldn't believe what the final reveal turned out to be. The theme of the game seems to be fate, and how one small event can trigger an entire domino effect on so many people's lives. And it's really interesting to see how these different characters are affected by this one event and how they react to it. Which is a great segue to talk about the character lineup. Capcom really flexes its quirky character muscles from Phoenix Wright with a lot of charming or interesting people. It's the good kind of Japanese quirk where it all feels like it's trying to create a unique and interesting world. Even if some of the characters have the craziest hair ever. If there are any cosplayers listening to this, I dare you to pull this one off. The characters are very well developed as we see their motivations and their personalities, like Detective Lin, who always seems to be a bit too enthusiastic when being brought back to life, or Inspector Cabanela, the smooth detective who loves the word baby and always has to make a dancing entrance wherever he goes. That dance never gets old to watch. There is a lot of text to go through, and this could turn a lot of people off who don't really want to read a game. It was one of the main criticisms when the game came out, but it didn't really bother me as much going through the story. Again, I was genuinely intrigued and invested in the story, so I wanted to hear every little bit that happened. I'll admit that it does take a bit too much in some areas, especially the ending where it goes to great lengths to explaining every last detail of the story. It helps when they change the static drawings or add a little bit of motion graphics or flair to the conversation, so it helps the short attention spans of some gamers. Speaking of the animation and specifically the game tech, both are some of the most impressive aspects behind Ghost Trick. All the characters and animation are just amazingly fluid, especially for the DS. It wasn't done with motion capture, but rendered in 3D polygons applied to the motions of 2D sprites by hand. If they made the whole thing 3D, it would have been very limiting using the DS, but applied to a 2D world, it gives everything great movement. Watching somebody walk or Inspector Cabanela dance around really gives it a great level of personality. They also go the extra mile, like seeing the policeman behind the desk fiddle with his feet in the background. The sound design and music are also a lot of fun. It has a kind of action thriller tone throughout the game. You hear the music and you're both fearful and pumped to see where the adventure takes you. The sound effects are also very satisfying. When you're making switches between different objects, it never really feels repetitive. And again, it gives a level of personality, like hearing the chef sing, or hearing the toast of the glass from the writer. It's the nice little touches that help you get immersed into this world. So now you've heard my spiel on Ghost Trick, you might be wondering where you'll be able to pick it up out in the wild. Well, I've got good news and okay news. The okay news is that the game isn't the rarest thing in the world, and it's still available on Amazon from the time of this review for about $20 new plus shipping. It used to cost about $30 plus shipping, but it since went down in price because of the good news. The game has since moved on from the DS and can be found on the iOS through iTunes. Wait, there are games on your iPhone and iPad? When did developers start doing that? Judging by the trailers and Let's Plays that I've seen of the game, it looks great, and the mostly stylus controls from the DS translate perfectly to touchscreens. On the iPhone and iPad, you can try the first 2 chapters for completely free. You can then either pay as you go for specific chapters that you want for a little bit of cash, or you can buy the whole thing for €8.99 or about $11.50 US. While the story is completely linear without anything like moral choices or anything extra like that, the game does have some replay value. While playing it again for this review, I was completely invested in the story all over again. The twists, the turns, the fun characters, it was all a joy to experience again. No matter which version you played on, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is a must-play for adventure game fans. Whether you're looking for a fun mystery plot with interesting characters and interesting twists, or for really unique and inventive puzzles, it's hard to go wrong with this game. It would easily be within my top 10 on the Nintendo DS, and easily one of my favorite games from Capcom's recent years. Also, Capcom, if you're listening, please? Pretty please on these? Hey y'all, thanks for taking a little time to watch my review. Also, a big thanks to YouTube user ZSlizer for allowing me to use his footage. Feel free to check out his channel, I have it linked right here, or feel free to watch another video show that I edit, The Video Game Years by RetroWare TV. I edit the good parts. The boring parts, that's probably Joey or Pat or someone. Thanks and happy late April Fools.